In this video, I'll show you how I built the Witch King's Flail. I got the pattern online. I'll show you the link of where I purchased the pattern from. And once I got that printed, I went and cut all the pattern pieces so I can easily retrace it onto the EVA foam. Since I had lots of scrapped EVA foam from previous cosplays I made, I went ahead and salvaged all of them to create all the pieces I can salvage from to build the flail for the Witch King. So the next clip you'll see me salvaging all the pieces I could with the EVA foam pieces I had here. But unfortunately, building the mace had many pieces to build as well, because I had to do the left and right side to make all the angles of the flail. So unfortunately I ran out of scrapped EVA foam, so I rolled out my EVA foam mat and started retracing all of those bigger pieces onto the foam mat to build the flail. Once you finish tracing all those paper patterns onto your EVA foam and scrap pieces of the EVA foam, you can tell there's a lot of pieces to make a flail. So now the next few clips you'll see me going through all those patterns and start cutting each of them with my X-Acto knife. Now that we have all the pieces cut out, now it's time to clean them up with the Dremel. One important thing, wear mask and safety glasses when dremeling, because it does create a lot of dust and it goes everywhere, and you don't want that to have in your eyes and into your lungs, so safety's first. For all the triangles of the flail, I went and used my Dremel to do 45-degree angles on them. And I also did the 45-degree angles on also the bigger pieces. But before I did that on the bigger pieces, I did the cleanup of all the edges to have that nice clean curve. Once that's been cleaned up, I went ahead and did the 45-degree angle on all of them as well. So they'll be ready for the gluing stage as well. And this is why you wear safety glasses and a good mask when you do lots of dremeling. It goes everywhere. Now that all the pieces are cleaned up and dremeled, we're now ready to start assembling each of those pieces together. To connect all the pieces together I used the contact cement. So I applied the contact cement on all the 45-degree angles of the flail. So I started with building all the triangle pieces first before I start assembling the other pieces. So the next few clips you'll see me building small pyramids. Now the pyramids are built, you have now 8 spikes to be for the flail. Now that we have all the little spikes built, now it's time to start applying all the contact cement on all the next pieces of the flail and start assembling them. With the contact cement applied, it's now time to start assembling the whole flail together. The next few clips you'll be seeing is me assembling the whole flail together, but in a nicely time-lapse manner, so you'll be able to see the speed-up version of me assembling the whole flail together. So sit tight and enjoy the assembly. Et voila! Now we got the main body of the flail built. So before I can glue the spikes of the flail onto the main body of the flail, I had to do a little cleanup to remove any residue of the glue or any overhang of EVA foam after the gluing was done. So doing that little cleanup to make it look more like metal spikes. And once that's all done, you have some nice clean spikes ready to be connected to the flail. So before I can connect the spikes to the flail in itself, I need to clean up the main body of the flail as well with my Dremel sanding bit. So I want to clean up all those edges, being careful not to dig into the foam. So I'm removing all those hanging glue markings and overhang EVA foam that are sticking out from the edges. So doing that little cleanup will make it much nicer as well for the finished product at the end. To make sure my spikes connects properly to the main body of the flail, is I used my Dremel and did some angle dremeling on each of those points so I can easily slide the spikes onto the main body of the flail. To make sure my spikes stays connected to my main flail body, is I use super glue to connect each of those points in each of those points there, because when I tried with contact cement, it was causing me more of a bigger headache to connect all those points there. And as you can see, we got spikes connected to the flail. So I got a main body for a flail, but I need to make sure I'll be able to connect that to the chain to the handle. So what to do is I went and put some contact cement inside there, and I use a wooden dowel rod with a hook at one end, so I'll be able to connect the chain to the main body, as you can see here. Now that the main body of the flail is built, it's now time to start building the handle for the flail. So I have all those pieces of the end pieces already cut out at the beginning and Dremel to be cleaned up. Once that was done, it's time to glue them to the main handle. So applying contact cement on each of those end pieces and at the back of each of those decorative pieces as well, where I'll be gluing it. Now that the glue has been applied, it's now time to connect all those pieces to the handle. To make sure I have even distributed spaces to those decorative pieces, I use a same EVA foam piece thickness to make sure it's well balanced in between of there. So I got the top done, now I need to do the bottom. I added a small dowel of EVA foam for the bottom piece because there was a little part that was sticking out, so I want to make sure it stays sturdy at the bottom there. And I did the same thing there. I added an EVA foam piece in between each of those so I can make sure I have all the space evenly distributed between there as well. Then once you have all that connected and glued, you have two end cap pieces completed and assembled and ready to proceed to the next details of the handle. To make sure my handle doesn't look plain in the center of the handle, is I went ahead and used some craft foam to give some more details. If you look carefully at the design of the actual flail handle, there are some unique metal ridges that sticks out in the center for grip for when handling the flail. So I went ahead and did the same thing with the craft foam. So I cut all those individual strips for the flail. And then I went and glued them to the handle itself. So I had a bottom ridge, as you can see here. And then I added all the center ridge all across the center of the handle, as you can see here. And I had 4 of those strips in the center right there. Once that was all done, now that's done, I use my ruler and marked proper spacing for the next piece that will be overlapping those ridges. I then went and applied my contact cement across the whole handle, as you can see here, and I discovered it will give a nice metal texture when it is painted. And then Now the glue is dried, it was now time to add those other craft foam strips across there. So to make sure that it looks like it's just not wrapped around, I use my ruler to make sure I tucked it in and glued properly at each of those intervals, as you can see here. Even though I tucked them in previously, before when I was gluing it, I noticed that it did not give that right edge texture I wanted. So I used my heat gun and heat that craft foam areas, and I just basically pressed it inwards again with my ruler to give that more sunk in metal design into that foam there. Et voila, we now have a complete handle for the flail. Now it's time to work on a chain. And in the movie, I went and counted, and I noticed that there was 14 links for the chain. So I went and cut it out, and you can easily find your chain at any type of home hardware store that sells chains. Since my chain looked plain, I need to make sure it looks menacing like in the movie, so I need to go and create lots of tiny little spikes with foam clay. And since you had 14 links times 2, because you had 2 spikes on each, you had at least 28 spikes to be made. So I went and applied the contact cement on each of those links in the center of each of those areas. And if you look carefully in the design of the flail, there is this unique type of metal ridge in the center of those chain links. So I used basically some craft foam, and I added all those little markings there in the center of the foam. And also it allows me to give a proper surface to connect each of those spikes to it as well, as you can see here. I went and added a little dab of contact cement behind each of those little spikes, and then I went and glued them to the chain link as well. And I made sure that all those spikes are glued onto the seam of those center pieces to hide that seam, and then you end up with a nice spiky chain. Now that we got the flail, the spiky chain, and the handle all built, we're now ready to start painting this flail to look like real metal, which you'll be seeing in the part 2 of this flail making.